Yeah, I had 4 years sober. The longest I've ever had in my entire life on the planet, 50 plus years, has been 7 years. That's the longest I've ever been without drugs or alcohol, excluding prescribed drugs taken as was supposed to be taken as prescribed to me. So basically, doing all the math, I've basically spent more years drunk and loaded. Mostly, like, I'm an alcoholic. I don't know why I think that's a bragging point. But anyways, that's the one that just tripped me up the most, even though it's the cheapest. And the others are more expensive, so it wasn't about the money. But anyway, so like 14, I don't know, maybe 12 days ago, I just finally started drinking again after 4 years clean and sober from drugs. And so now I'm going to show you how I work my program after blowing 4 years, I don't know, maybe 12 days ago or so. But the lighting's not really that good. Or I don't know about the focus or whatever. Close up, yeah, there's the lighting's a little better. And then the flip side of that, on that side of the program, I don't know, the lighting just ain't strong enough. And then the flip side of that, on that side of the program, is there. And then the flip side of this, I don't know, maybe it's the lighting. I'll try. Or that'll be too much to move that in the light. Let's see. That's about all I can do with that. But anyways, that's basically how I'm currently working my program. And after 4 years of being clean and sober, or clean and dry, however you want to call it. That is part of it. And then the other part of being back out for, like, we'll just say 14 days or so. This isn't an advertisement. I'm just kind of showing you, the other side of the program here. You probably can't get this one in the States, so not yet. So I'm overseas, and in fact, the first television commercial I ever did here for this, I didn't even know what the stuff was, but it's like this fruit drink, and it's really sweet. I mean, you don't even taste it. It just tastes like a sweet fruit drink. And for you people that are visiting Japan to be in the know, and you see fruit drinks, you might want to double check that, so you don't accidentally relapse thinking you're drinking lemonade, and then it turns out to be alcohol. But I've been in periods of sobriety where I wanted to stay sober, and I accidentally picked up a drink and it had alcohol in it, and I realized after the gulp went down, kind of after the fact. And I still stayed sober after that, and I didn't change my AA NA birthday or whatever, because I didn't continue, on it. It was like after I identified what it was, I stopped. And then some foods have it in it, as we all well know anyways. But this is currently how I'm working my program. And what's kind of weird about this scenario is before I quit for the 4 years, the alcohol wasn't doing nothing for me. I mean, it wasn't getting me drunk. It was just making me a little depressed. It wasn't giving me a buzz. But now I'm actually getting a really good buzz off the alcohol again. Or whatever, which I hadn't gotten for years. So, so that's the current program. And you know, I could lie. You know, a lot of people they go to meetings and they tell you they're clean and sober and they're not. I'm being straight up. I always have. I've probably been to 4,000 plus meetings. And I figured, well, actually, I've been straight up pretty much most of my life, unless it was going to put me in jail. You know, what was coming out of my mouth. You know. And, a lot of people like to get their hands on these babies here, trust me. And, I've been eating them like it's candy. After 4 years, and my tolerance just like shot up. After about 7 days, I don't shoot up. If you look at my arms, that's the remnants of a bed bug bite. That's another story. And then here, this arm, you can see these are the main veins here. You don't see any freaking tracks on those, you know. So my tolerance shot up by not shooting up. But I mean, my tolerance would have shot up anyway. So I've always had an incredible drug tolerance. I mean, the amount of opiates that I'm on now, of course this sounds like I'm bragging, but it'd probably put about 4 people in the grave. Like my friend that died 2+ weeks ago. So I'm being straight up with you. Basically, after 4 years, this is where I'm at. And, and, I guess why lie, you know? So, basically, you know, you hear a million different reasons of why alcoholics tell you why they drink. There's a million different excuses. I mean, I have a genetic disposition. But I drank when I was happy. I drank when I was upset. I drank when I was on top of the world, and I drank when I was underneath it in extreme depression. Or take drugs, if you will. Like, I'm predominantly an alcoholic, but you would kind of question that watching me pop all those pills. But, you know, you hear all these excuses. And one of the big ones was, oh, I quit going to meetings. You know, but I know a guy, he's probably got like 35 years now, and he goes to maybe 1 or 2 meetings a month. But he went to thousands of meetings just like me. And then I knew another girl, his ex-wife, and she was like sponsoring, I don't know, 10 people, and her husband started going back. He went back out, and then she kind of dragged him along. No, I mean, he dragged her along, yeah, and then she went back out, and she was sponsoring a bunch of little babies and working the steps and all that. Going to lots of meetings and doing all those other goodies or whatever. You know, and I've met, like, I mean, the odds of staying sober, I've said this in other videos. I mean, I know very, very few people. Out of all the meetings I've been to, there's very, very few people that stay sober their whole life, you know. I guess the main problem is they they give up and they don't try getting sober again. And even after all of this, and watching me talk to you, obviously, you can tell I'm pretty fucked up right now. I will eventually, definitely, I'll start going to meetings again and listening to their bullshit. And I will eventually, stop because, the body can only take it so long. And at my age, I wouldn't live much longer. So it would be like basically committing suicide with after going to, I don't know, maybe 4,000, 7,000 meetings I've been to in my life. It's kind of, you just know that the body can only take so much. And I want to be around. Because everybody has a different reason why they want to be around. Like I've met women that they sobered up because of their kids, and then when they all turned 18 and they were functional, they went back out. They basically sobered up because of their kids. And other people because of the DUE and all that stuff. I mean, one DUE, I was sent to CAC, Community Alcoholism Center, and they told me, and I figured, I'll be honest. So I had like 90 days at the time, and I relapsed. And then they slapped me with like 20 more meetings at the CAC back then. It was like $25 a pop. So that, that tacked on more money and more time by being honest there or whatever. So that wasn't necessarily good. But going to meetings, I never, And so anyways, I really don't know where I'm going with this. I haven't planned it out, and I don't really have an agenda, but I guess I know I'll keep trying, and I don't ever expect, I think people just have to accept that if you're an alcoholic and a drug addict, you will relapse eventually. There's no perfect frickin', we're just humans. But I was kind of talking about, all the different reasons in the beginning of this. And I started getting fucked up when I was like 5. I was raised in a family where my dad was a fucking shrink that had we had thousands of Demerols and Perconans and all that shit around the house. But I basically, why I drank or drug, or am I drinking and drugging, is because I like the effect. It triggers all the, if you want to look psychologically, all the endorphins in the brain. It takes away the pain or whatever and the stress, and I just like the euphoria. I mean, I get that sometimes when I'm having sex. Sometimes when I reach that last peak when I'm climbing a mountain, or I'm hitting a 50-mile-an-hour wind sideways on a surfboard. I mean, those days are long gone. I can't do that stuff anymore. But I just kind of get high on life, and I guess drugs and alcohol have been a part of that. So I guess if I was going to narrow down my stereotype, I mean, physically, genetically, I'm addicted. Genetically, I have a disposition because I'm part Indian. So with the alcohol, and some other people have it with Coke or whatever, but I never had it with Coke or whatever, but I just basically did it because I enjoyed it. Like I said, good, bad, sad, or indifferent. I relapsed, and probably over, if I add it all up, the most of the times was usually when I was on top of the game. I was with the stripper and a couple hookers. I mean, what am I saying? I wasn't the stripper on that one, but I was like with a movie director in Vancouver, and I got like a good role in the movie, and we're in the frickin' penthouse suite with the sweeping view. Frickin' huge wet bar that takes up the whole frickin' half of the apartment, and a jacuzzi and all that, and a couple fine hookers, and I'm on top of the world, and I just felt like I'm bringing up a notch, So, but there's all these guilt-tripping people in AA that talk about, you didn't work the steps hard enough, and you didn't go to enough meetings. And I've seen all of those reasons blown out of the water. I mean, why people relapse, you know. I guess I like the effect. I like what it does to me, and I've been I guess, a chaser of rushes or in, the brain chemistry or whatever, feel good, whether it's stock trading or nailing a scene in one take, my dialogue or whatever. So in my case, it was the effect. It made me feel better. It makes me feel better. Currently, it's making me feel better. But what's going to happen is it's going to stop working. All of that stuff. I don't want to break my anonymity, but all of this stuff is going to basically stop working for me. Actually, this stuff has stopped working so far. I mean, I'm taking terrible, heavy amounts that would kill people that weren't used to it. Definitely on the amounts I'm taking right now just to get a buzz. So the tolerance goes up, and then the alcohol, it stops working again, and then to get me the euphoria, not to run from things, but to get me to the euphoria, which is running in a way if you like to trip out or enjoy another dimension to your reality, or you like to just get high or whatever, The difference between the States and this country where I'm at now is for that, you would spend an awful lot of time in jail. I mean, for pot, you get like a call to the embassy after a month. I mean, they put you in the can, and then basically they just boot you out of the country. They don't want to sock you with a long time sentence or anything. You get your one call after a month, and you're on the plane out of here. And it's happened to famous people. This one guy I knew that was a friend of mine, he was dealing pot and something else. I don't know the particulars, but like he was in the middle of a major TV series with the main role. And like the studio's arguing, you can't boot this guy out of the country until we at least finish the series or whatever. And they don't care here in Japan. They just frickin' ship your ass out. You're done. They don't care what you are, who you are, how famous you are. Like in the States, you can buy your way out of a lot of situations, but in Japan, they're not really flexible in that area. And maybe that's why there's less of a problem here. Probably the main reason is it never got really established, and the organized crime really has better ways to make money than off of dealing drugs. I mean, they do other things to make their money here off of that, so they're not concerned about the drug sales. So that's another factor too. So you have to know somebody here, and you have to be. But anyways, so I just like for the effect, good or bad or indifferent. So, as far as meetings go and all that, I would just take what I wanted and leave the rest. Because there's so many people that are so full of crap, and they like to guilt trip other people and say how they were. Just all these self-righteous people that tell you they got a handle on the program and you work the steps, they work them or whatever, and their program is perfect and everything's fine. You get these old timers, they get up past, I don't know, even after 5 or whatever, they think they're frickin' somebody and they're gonna brag. Because that's the only place they can have self-esteem. And in reality, they're still lying, conning, manipulating, and stealing, which has nothing to do with it. But I mean, I'm just using an example that basically in real life, they're nothing. And the only thing they got is that one little bit of time that they got temporarily just to brag about and gloat about and tell you about how they did it and how you should and how superior they are to you. And they try to guilt trip you by how much more time they got than you and how you should do everything their way. I've seen that so many times. It's repulsive, you know. It's just like a repulsive thing I really don't want to hear about, you know. I'd rather hear about the guy that just lost his family, or his wife got fed up with him, or he just got a homicidal or accidental manslaughter because he nailed somebody with a car. I'd rather hear people that are talking from the heart at a meeting and they're talking about what's really going on. Because a lot of those people, they get a lot of time, you know. I've seen them with from 10 to frickin' 20 plus years, just, oh, they died sober, all right, but it was from a bullet from their own gun through the cranium, you know, or up their nose or whatever, you know, or they jumped out of a building or whatever because they were living this fake reality and they couldn't stoop down and talk about how messed up and they were in their life and that they needed help. But in my case, the bottom line was I just really wanted to get hammered again. I wanted to start getting that euphoria and chase that. You know, so, I mean, all the examples that these people gloat about, you know, it's, you know, you just got to remember what it did to you. A really good first step is the bottom line. And then all the other steps will start working you eventually. You know, you'll just, to live and be happy and not blow your brains out, you know, you'll have to do that stuff eventually, part of it, in one way or another. I mean, a fourth step can be going to a therapist or a really solid, good friend that has good advice that you can talk to in the program or not. You know, it doesn't matter. And then I've seen all kinds of stuff since I've gone to meetings, you know, about this fifth step stuff, you know, where you admit to God, yourself, and another human being, the exact nature of wrongs or whatever, you know, and it's like, they think it's good that they went back to jail for 20 years because they admitted to this one crime, or they're spending the rest of their lives paying off a debt that nobody would have known about, you know, unless they would have brought it up to light. And then they're just miserable as hell, and then some of them blow their brains out or whatever because they're working an honest program, you know, or whatever. And then go into meetings and hear these people gloating about how the newcomer's the most important and all that stuff, and there'll be a newcomer there that really needs help. And that's one thing I always did. I mean, I guess I will brag about it, but I always treated the newcomer as the most important person in the meeting. And a lot of people with time that say that do that because it's like a vicarious, superficial way of so how they can look superior to the other individual and how much better their life is than this other person, you know. Or they'll say that, and then after the meeting, you know, they'll go to the hottest chick and start flirting with her and try to pick her up, or hottest guy, whatever. You know, and try to pick him up or whatever, and not go to that person that needs the help, that's trying to get into the program, that's trying to get sober. You know, and I can honestly say that most of the time, when I heard somebody like that, I would switch the meeting over to a first step, and I would try to get them help. And then also they would kill off a lot of newcomers by telling them that they just need to stop drinking. And if you're physically addicted to alcohol, you will die because your cells have been feeding on alcohol and they don't know how to feed on regular food. They need to be professionally detoxed. So in essence, people like that are basically killing other people or murdering them. And I've seen that happen over and over again too, when they should have been professionally detoxed, you know. So it's a serious deal. And you might not ever get it, you know, but that doesn't mean you're a bad person or whatever, you know. That's the other thing is all the freaking moralities. And you think, who am I to talk to you with that? But you're looking at, I don't know, 4,000 plus meetings in different countries and all that. And here I am gloating about that. But anyways, I guess I would quit going to meetings because I just don't want to hear somebody brag about stuff like that, you know, like they have the answer. You know, I think it's basically a miracle that everybody that's an alcoholic, that drug addict that really wants to stay sober for that day, and they do, is a miracle, and that's not even their own choice half the time. You know. So there's a lot of BS there. And a lot of times when I'd bring all the issues that I've been talking about up to light, you know, I would get attacked and chased out of the meeting, and then they'd attack me after the meeting and attack me at the next meeting or whatever because I didn't believe in the God the big book said about, which is basically the Jesus story, I guess. But diluted down and all that, you know. So it's not that I'm against those people, but just, you know, and then there's some people, there's like a newcomer, and then they're talking about God this and God that and God this and God that, and that people are going to comment on this video because I'll leave that open for the most part unless it's nasty, and they'll say God this and God that, and I don't frickin' believe in your God. No matter who you are, and I never will. You can say, well, that's why you went after 7 and 4 years and 3 years or whatever the periods of sobriety that I did have. And I've seen people die with 40 years and never believed in God and openly say it in meetings, and they got attacked, you know, by these other people or whatever, you know. I think it's basically just one drunk talking to another, and no psychiatrist or unless they're actually drunk, you know, they really have no business telling someone that is a drunk how to get their shit together, because it takes someone that's actually a drunk. I mean, that was proven since Bill W. and Dr. Bob, and maybe a million years before that, Zenzu and Wiku or whoever, whatever their names were. I mean, that's basically what it was, and that's basically what it is. It's one person trying to help the other person to achieve the same objective, you know. That's the bottom line. All the other stuff is just a bunch of fluff. You know, because like Bill W.'s dad basically joined like a religious cult and stuff and used religion and everything. Or one of them, Dr. Bob, or the other, I don't know. I'm kind of hammered, as you can tell, and so that they turned the AA into a religious thing or whatever. And now you know where I stand with that. But on the flip side, you know, there's a lot of meetings in church basements. There's a lot of meetings that wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the religions that allow that time and space for the alcoholics to get together and bond, like I was saying, that needs to be done. So, in that way, I mean, religion is totally daijobu okay with me, because they provide a place for freaking, where people can have meetings and stuff. And the treatment centers and all that other fluff, like I was saying, the detox, if they're physically addicted to alcohol or heroin or whatever, they need to be physically detoxed and they need a break from everything. So they have their purpose too. And the court's forcing people in to go to meetings and get their papers signed. I don't know, I got mixed feelings about that, but it at least gets them in. If they are an alcoholic, they could be a social drinker that just got hammered one time. Or they drink once a year, and they don't really freaking have that much of a problem. I used to chair a couple different meetings at Fremont and Seattle, Washington for years. And there'd be the court slip people and they'd come around when they passed the hat and people put cash in and all that. And that's funny too, is they're like a cheapskate. It's like paying more than $1 back then, or $2 was like too much. But they spent what? $100 tab on drinking, and they spent $1,000 tab on hard drugs, and contributing a few extra bucks to a meeting is a big deal. I mean, that always got me too. But basically, at halftime and stuff, I would just tell the people, hey, if you're forced or whatever, and you don't really want to be here, I'm just gonna sign that paper and you can walk, and that's your business. And that's between you and your paper, And I don't really give a shit because you were forced to come here. So I got mixed feelings on that. But some people got sober that way or got a shot at it that way, so whatever. It's funny talking about, I guess, resentments. So they say that's another thing, is resentments in the big book is the #1 offender. All I can say is I like to get hammered whether I was resentful or not. I like the effect. That's why I drank. Or am drinking. I like what it does to me. I feel really good right now. I just left a war zone and I'm alive. I left a horrible war zone that's currently going on right now that'll never ever end. And so I'm unwinding from that. And it'll probably take me, 2-3 weeks, maybe a month, maybe longer, to get out of that. Living in that survival mode for that long every day is just survival, trying to stay alive. Not from the booze, but from annihilation from other people. Because of my skin color. So, at the meetings, the main thing I could say is just take the good and leave the rest, and like the traditions or, principles before personalities. You don't get caught up in the personalities, like I'm talking about the self-righteous people that got all the answers that want to tell you how to do it, and then they blow their brains out. And I have seen that. I mean, I think it's better for them to go get hammered than to blow their brains out, because when they get hammered, they have a shot at straightening the mess out. But if they blow their brains out, if there is a karma and all that stuff, then they'll just come back and deal with that at another time and space again. They'll still have that to contend with. So, yeah. I don't even know what I'm going to title this. I don't know, 4 years and the effects started working again. But that's what always happens with me, is everything, regardless of the chemical or the booze, same thing. It just, it'll stop working for me, and then I'll have to take insane amounts to get a buzz, and then it's just freaking pointless, because then you risk killing yourself because you're trying to reach that same level that you were getting, but your tolerance is going up with the alcohol or the drugs. So, you know, I mean, it's still working for me right now, but it'll stop and my tolerance will go up. And so then I'll just have to quit out of that. And then helping the newcomer, I think that's really a good thing. But if you're in early sobriety, man, a lot of people I've seen get sucked out because they're helping out the newcomer and they got some really good stuff left at home and they need the old timer or whatever to help them flush that down the toilet, and the old timer or whatever, they end up flushing half of that down their toilet, their mouth, their stomach, or whatever you want to call it, their pie hole. So, got out of the war zone. It felt so good walking home from a store in the dark, knowing that nobody's gonna attack me on the way home. I might get run over if I walk out in the street at the wrong time. I mean, that's always a possibility. Or I might fall and hit my head and get a concussion or cause major brain hemorrhaging or whatever, and then I check out that way. But for the most part, you know, I live in a country that is frickin' safe right now, and I was in a country before that wasn't safe. So I can play for a few days like I'm doing right now, and then I gotta get my act together, and there'll be no more stupid YouTube videos uploads from alcoholic me. I don't know why I said it that way, but anyways, you know, I'll be so busy with just trying to deal with life and adapting to a different country other than the States, one that actually has medical care, one that is actually safe, and a bunch of morons aren't allowed to carry around guns. It shouldn't be carrying around guns because they're a frickin' moron. They don't know what they're playing with. And it's a really good feeling. And to be out of that shithole that they've turned the U.S. into, it's a freaking shithole, and it's getting worse. They're poisoning everybody. And everybody's too brainwashed, or they're too much of a pussy to stand up against the evil, corrupt government. And there's a lot of those too, but you know, I guess just watching the U.S. get destroyed, that was kind of a heartache, but you can't change it. Like, there was this movie Michael Moore put out called Sicko. I advise you to watch that. I'm advising you. I'm giving you advice to watch that and see how they're poisoning everybody. And they don't get medical care. And then there's another movie called Seeds of Death. And it's about the food that you're eating, the poison that you're getting fed. And trust me, from what I know about it, and from my limited studies of biology and chemistry, they're poisoning everybody in that country. And that's why I don't live there. One of the reasons. Meanwhile, they drop bombs in other countries and point fingers at people like me that are just trying to get home and go through all my shit. Test it for stuff and all that. It's freaking totally barbaric. Also, in this country, I can go to work. I can go to a store and buy a nice TV and know that somebody's not going to tail me home and wait for the right time to steal that when I go to work. Steal all my possessions. And then the legal system is so messed up that even if you have a solid case, it's whoever pays the most money wins. Lady Justice, that scale, what it really means is it's whoever piles the most money on that scale wins that case. That's the bottom line. From screenwriter to frickin' your street thief to your crooked cop. Whoever piles the most money on that scale. So that's kind of pointless, relying on a system like that to take care of you for the injustice of you having your shit stolen. And then paying taxes on top of it. Paying taxes to a government that isn't going to medically take care of you. You work your whole life. Like I never committed treason. I could have made treason, made a few clams off of that. Never commit treason. The ones that are committing treason are the ones that are the politicians and the frickin' doctors and the advertising people and all them. Those are the ones that are committing treason and doing a major disservice shipping good American jobs, good American hard workers. I mean, as a working American, I was a hard-working American. I mean, aside from working the most dangerous job in the country or on the planet. And just to be, when it's time for them to take care of me medically, they drop me like a hot potato. Or the doctor's got to pre-approve this medication by this insurance company, and then they got to be approved by a pharmacy, and that's got to be approved by the pharmacy and pre-approved and all that stuff. It's just a freaking game. And I could have been living in Norway or Europe or Japan or another country where they might take a little more tax money out, but they're taking care of their citizens, you know. Yes, I have resentment. That isn't why I drank. I drank because I like to drink, or take drugs because I like the effect. That resentment is just a choice of what country I want to live. Who wants to pay taxes to a government that's going to use it to bomb other people and won't take care of its own civilians, citizens? And then half of those people that are homeless on the street were war vets. Or more, maybe 3/4, that went and shot people to death in the name of America, the evil bad guys, which are actually just humans just like them. Cold-blooded murderers for the government. And then they come back and their head's so messed up from seeing all that horrible stuff, and they come back up and they come back and they paid taxes on all that and they ask for help. And then the government just shits on them and makes them beg for their money. And then the government cuts them off, and then they wind up on the streets in LA or Seattle, somewhere like that. But they don't last too long. I mean, they might last 4 or 7 years, but when they need the medical help that they really, really need, they don't get it because they have to jump through a bunch of hoops. They never get their benefits. They always say, oh yeah, that person is on the street because they made it their choice. They don't talk about how the government and the frickin' psychiatrists and all the other people said, stamp, that person's fine, they're available to go to work. After watching their best friends getting killed and bury them. and killing other people. Yeah, that's what's going on. They'd rather spend more money on that, your tax money, on killing foreign people that you don't even know that are real flesh and blood, just like you, that have families and kids and all that. For what, communism? Well, there's some communist countries that will treat the cancer, try to heal the person. But then again, there's some communist countries that are messed up, but just so contradictory. And then you have these politicians talking about how they're going to go to these other countries and talk about freedom. What is freedom when you aren't allowed to freely express yourself on the internet, but then again you get medical help, which you don't get in the States. So that's just a big lie. All that tax money you pay, it'll never come back to you. You'll become an older senior citizen. You won't be able to take care of yourself and you need the help. 50,000 people a year plus or more die in America because they couldn't get health insurance. That's where your tax money goes. It goes to dropping bombs on people just like us, rather than helping out people just like us. Because a few of them are terrorists, but who are the real terrorists? The ones that starve their own citizens and keep them on the street and doped up on really nasty drugs because the doctors are controlled by the pharmaceutical companies. Yep. And they prescribe this crazy shit, this crazy new shit that's killed a few of my friends. The drugs. And then those pharmaceutical companies get tax stuff or whatever. They pump them full of poison, all these new evil psych meds and all that. And then 20 people get shot at the mall. And they blame it on the person. When really that person was so doped up on this new crap that they didn't have much of a say in the matter. They were just following orders from their pharmaceutical god that was controlling their brain when that happened. But that never enters, that part of the equation never ever enters the media. Then you go to your AA meeting and they tell you that it was because the person didn't work the right morals, or they didn't work the program right, or if they would have done a better 4-step or whatever. They don't talk about how the frickin' drugs made them do that. Coming from other countries back to the U.S. is just like a sewer. People are so fucking crazy in the United States. They're so out of their mind because of all these drugs that they're all doped up on. And yeah, you just watched me. In fact, you might watch me a little more. Here, bear with me a minute. I guess. Change the channel, I don't know. Oops, dropped one on the floor. Oops, dropped one. See, there we go. There's another. Let's see if we can get this in focus to show you what I'm into right now. I guess it just ain't gonna happen. God, this just ain't gonna happen, is it? It's disappointing, isn't it? I guess it's more disappointing for me because I'm making the video. But, It's like this stuff. You have to have like your arm got cut up or shot off, or you have to be in some serious pain to get a hold of that. And then they try to get rid of that, and they make it so that you have to go to illegal drugs to take care of your pain, because the real stuff, like what I just took, the doctors say, oh, you're a drug addict. I mean, I am, but not everybody else is, and there's people that are in pain and need that medication. But the media and everybody, or this medication is addictive or whatever. So the real people that got the real pain, they get labeled a drug addict and they can't get access to the pain meds. So last time I had a really nasty shoulder injury, if I showed you my body or my back, my last major back injury, I got 2 crushed vertebrae and I really was in pain and I really did need the medication, not like now where I'm just partying. And they aren't able to get the meds, so they don't have much of a choice, do they? They gotta go to the frickin' street and buy stuff that's been stamped on or stepped on or isn't real or whatever. And they suffer. All because of the messed up frickin' stuff, It's just really simple. So I covered a lot, and I covered the pet peeves in the meetings and my version of why I got loaded, and then how people have to resort to go into the street to take care of their pain, because they've made it such a racket for the people that have the real pain, that need the real help, to not be able to get it. Like, look at my tooth. I don't know if you can see it that well with focus. Like I said, I'm doing this to get hammered right now, but also, you'd figure that a tooth has been split in half almost all the way down to the nerve. I don't know what the difference is between that and the nerve, but it's not very much, trust me. And so I had to stock up on this stuff, because when that breaks through, and that's all about the money again, it's about the medical insurance has got to kick in so I can get it treated. But I'm in a different country, so it'll take a while. But if I was in the States, it would take even longer, So I would have to stoop to that level of going to the street to get hooked up, to get the freaking medication that I need for the real freaking pain. It's all messed up, man. And 100,000 people a year die taking pharmaceutical drugs as prescribed. They're not abusing them like I am right now. As prescribed to deal with whatever. And that's just a gross estimate. I'm sure that the actual statistics are a lot higher. And do you think that's ever going to change? Do you think voting some new puppet into office is going to fix that problem? I think not, because it hasn't, has it? That, my dear, is where the tax money goes. When you're paying your Medicaid and your Medicare, you'll never see it. Then when you actually do reach that age or earlier, where you actually do need that help, they're going to make you jump through so many hoops, You practically have to be a doctor or an attorney to understand all that legal jargon. They're going to make it so difficult for you to get that help that you honestly do need as a hard-working American tax-paying citizen for all those years you put in. They're going to make it so hard for you that you're probably going to give up and die. That's where your tax money's going. And a little bit about just my current sobriety and the situation I'm at right now. So maybe I'll do another one of these, and I'm not even going to tack a number on it. I'm probably going to watch the first 5-10 minutes of this and figure out what I'm going to name it from that. But I guess it doesn't really matter, because hardly anybody's going to see it. Because Google, YouTube is all controlled by big business. They pay for the advertising, so all the little truthful shows, like what I'm saying right now, ain't gonna get seen by very many people, and that's what I'm telling you is true, and you know it. And it's not gonna get seen, and I could say it's an ego thing, that I wish I should become famous from this, blah, blah, blah. But I'm just blabbing because I'm in a new country. I don't even know where I'm at. I'm somewhere in Japan. And I kind of remember how I got here, but it's like, it's just like thinking about how screwed I got over there and was a hard-working citizen for so many years. And then when I need help, I mean, I'm okay now, but I mean, I'm talking about in the future, and I know so many old people that need help, that really honestly need the help, that paid into the tax system. And that's all going to illegal aliens to just come over and have a baby. And then they get everything. Oh, you're a mommy with a baby. You get the 1-bedroom apartment right off the bat. You get on the shortest waiting list. The kid gets on the medical right away. Whereas you have to fight tooth and nail just like you did when you were overseas fighting for your country to get what you worked for. And they just get it because they just came over the border and had a baby. And they get everything you work for. They suck off it like a leech. And then I'm a bad guy because I'm white and I brought it up. I'm a bad guy because I'm white and I brought it up. I'm a bad guy because I'm white and I brought it up. That's another label, isn't it? You know what I'm talking about. But I paid for what you're living off of, you frickin' leeches. Sucking the welfare system dry. And all the medical care that I'm deserved to me because I worked for it for years. But I won't see it because I'm white. Because you're all a bunch of frickin' racists. You think I'm a racist. I'm just stating the facts of why I'm getting ripped off. And all the other Americans are getting ripped off for all the hard years they worked. That's a fact. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the truth. And you want to use your little, well, he's a racist and all that, which seems to work pretty well. The media's been working on that pretty well. And that's what they're dishing out. This country is just getting destroyed by people that never worked or helped or tried to be productive in this country and didn't commit treason and all that stuff.